Hi. Hi, my name is Shonda Miles. I am a medical coding coach, medical coding expert, medical coding consultant. I have 17 years experience as a coder auditor, inpatient and outpatient, 10 years teaching face-to-face and online. I've written 5 books on medical coding, 3 of them on Amazon, and 6 medical coding certifications, kind of split between a HEMA and AAPC. So today I wanted to talk to you about what your CPC score really means. So this is for people who have already taken the CPC exam or who are getting ready to take the CPC exam. And so, I have to admit that I have issues with AAPC. I love them, but, their passing score is 70%. And kind of in the real world, 70 is what, a C? And so in the coding profession, you could not keep a job with 70% working for any facility. I mean, it's failing. And so in case you don't know, most facilities want a 95% accuracy rate. So if you score a 70% or 80%, or even 90% in that case, on the CPC exam, you still could not keep a job as a medical coder. And so I always tell coders, look at your score and see where you really are. So for me, this is just based on my experience, my expertise, kind of what I've seen over and over again. If you scored a 95% or higher, which this is a very small number of people, you are what we consider a good coder. You kind of meet the gold standard, if you will, of a CPC coder. Doesn't mean that you don't have weaknesses. Doesn't mean that you don't have things that you should study, but overall, we say that you are a good coder. And so I'll just say, kind of parenthetically here, that nothing can really prepare you for what you're going to see in the real world coding. So you might see, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And so what I mean by that is you might go take a test and have a certain scenario, a certain coding scenario, where you might have bits and pieces of one scenario, bits and pieces of another scenario that describe your patient. And so, you'll see all kind of things. So you have to be really good to be a good coder. And so a 95 or higher, we consider a good coder. So probably 80 to 95%, we say that, you're an okay coder. And so if you score an 80 to 95%, which is still a small percentage of people, because majority of the people kind of fall between the 70 and 80 or 70, 79% percentile. But anyway, 80 to 94% or so, we say you're an okay coder. And so if that's what you scored on the test, you still have work to do. There are things that you need to do to get better. There are still things you should be studying every single day. You should still have some type of game plan, some type of 30-day plan, 60-day plan, or even 90-day plan, depending on kind of what your plans are as far as getting a job, to get better. And so in case you don't know this as well, once you pass CPC, you want to start working. Most employers will test you. They'll have some type of employment exam. So they'll test you on coding. They'll give you a coding exam. And that is kind of the gateway, especially if you want to be a remote coder. That is kind of the gateway to get your foot in the door. So you have to be good to get into the, most coding facilities. They test you their own test, even with the certification. And you have to have like a 95% to pass their test. So you want to be focused every single day on getting better. So I'll kind of tell you what you should do in a minute. So that's 80 to 95. So if you score 79 or lower, you have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things, a lot of gaps in your knowledge that have to be fixed. You have to learn what you didn't learn. And so without pointing any fingers, you got to be looking at, okay, did I miss a lot of days of school? Did I really study like I was supposed to every single day? Was I focused? Was I disciplined? When I was studying, was I really studying, or was I on social media? Was I on, thank you, thank you for liking this. Was I studying? What was I doing every single day? Did I spend quality time studying, or was I on social media? Was I checking my email? Was I, were the kids running around? So you want to make sure that you were actually focused. And so what I find is that most students are not. If they score below a 70% on the test, they were not focused when they were in school. They had all these different things going on, all these different excuses. They did just enough to get by. but it really bites you in the butt when it comes to the APC exam or keeping a job as a coder. It's hard. You can't shortcut the process. And, you know, we do this all over every field. We try to shortcut the process, but you cannot. If you did not study, if you didn't make good grades, if you didn't prepare adequately, if you don't know your guidelines, you can't shortcut the process. The CPC will stop you every single time. So you have to go back and figure out, okay, did I learn this? What is it that what do you need to go back and look at so you can get the adequate training? And so the kind of some other things, that kind of tips that might help you is go back and look at what areas of coding do you hate. What areas do you hate? What areas do you consider to be your weaknesses? And just kind of write these down. You can create a plan just around this of what you should be studying every single day. Usually the areas that we hate, we don't understand. So you need to go back and look at, okay, are there YouTube videos? Can you read an article about it? Is there information in your textbook that you can go back and look at? And so most coders also think that they can read something one time and then understand it. But the older I get, the more I have to read something over and over and over again before I get an understanding. And it's just because of the way our mind is wired. We have so many distractions, so many things that are going on that usually we don't get it the very first time. So don't think that just because you didn't get it the first time that you're the only one. You're not. Most of us have to read it over and over again before we get an understanding. So the next thing is look at your areas of weakness. So if you've taken the CPC exam, your areas of weakness will be evident. You'll see where you scored the lowest, and those will be your areas of weakness. Also, if you haven't taken the CPC exam, but you're taking practice tests, the practice test will tell you where you're weak as well. So look at that and see where you're weak. The next thing is look at when you were taking the test, or if you're doing practice tests, what slows you down? What just kind of gets you all? Is it the long cases? Is it the ones that are cardiology? So you got to determine what slows you down. What just kind of trips you up? What is it that you overthink or takes you a long time to get an understanding of? Those will be other areas that you need more training on, or to read about, or to look at videos on, so you get a better understanding, so you kind of know the lingo. The next thing is read everything you can about if it's a disease that you don't understand, if it's a procedure or surgery. Look at everything you can. If it's a body system, do your research and spend time trying to learn as much as you can about that particular condition or disease or surgery, because it will give you a better understanding. You'll kind of know what the doctor's talking about as he goes through the procedure or the surgery. So make sure you do that. Don't just skip it and say, okay, I don't understand this, I hate this area of coding, because you want to get an understanding. You want to get better, and this is how you get better as a coder. Let's see. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is just the scores again, and just kind of what you should be doing based on what your score is. So if your score was 60 to 69, you should spend time, probably even if you made a little bit higher than that, 30 days, just really focus on the ICD-10 guidelines. And I probably would take 4 or 5 days and read the guidelines over and over again. And the rest of the time, maybe 25 days or so, I would spend the rest of that time, divide my CPT book up. It's like 20 sections in your CPT book. I would, spend that time and actually read one section of the CPT every single day for that whole 30 days to get a better understanding, so you'll be a better coder. Another thing I tell my students is, if you're reading something like CPT book, there's things you don't understand, you should have a notepad or notebook next to you. Write down all the words you don't understand, and then when you get through studying, go and Google those words and see what they mean. That's the only way you're going to learn. If you miss it in school, or your teacher didn't teach you in school about these particular things in the CPT book, different types of procedures, different types of equipment, you have got to Google it and figure out what it is. And the only way you can do that is when you're going through your CPT book, each section, make sure you're writing down words that you don't understand, and then Google it after you study so you can learn what it means. So the next kind of part is, if you made a 50 to 59, I would spend 60 days to 90 days studying. I would study the ICD-10 guidelines, same thing, like 5 days reading the ICD-10 guidelines every single day. CPT, I would spend like 25 days approximately studying CPT guidelines, maybe a little bit more. And the rest of that 30 days, I would spend studying anatomy and physiology. Because what most coders don't realize is that medical terminology and anatomy and physiology make up the foundation of what we do. So if you skip this process, if you cheated in medical term and anatomy, or you just did enough to get by, you got to go back and build the foundation. If you don't build the foundation, I mean, anybody can code. The problem is that you don't know what you're coding, and that's where you have difficulty. So you got to go back and build the foundation, learn the medical term, learn the anatomy and physiology, and then you can build up from there. But without the foundation, you can't do anything. So if you scored a 49 or lower, you got to go back and look at your textbook. So the books that you use to, graduate and get your certificate or degree, you got to go back and start over. You got to start with chapter 1 and just kind of go through, work each problem, each case, read each scenario, read each chapter, and really just kind of go through and see, things that you didn't learn, things that you need to learn. Just kind of go through each chapter one by one. And then you got to do the same thing. You got to spend maybe 30 to 60 days in a textbook, maybe multiple textbooks, because most coders have to work 4,000 problems before they're even able to sit for the CPC exam. So you want to be the best you can. You need all the practice that you can get. I also recommend the Clinical Coding Workout book. It's a book in the HEMA store. So that is the Clinical Coding Workout. Just get the 2019 version. And it comes with answers, odd number answers. It's a great way to get more experience as a coder, to work more problems. So make sure you do that. So Clinical Coding Workout, that is in the HEMA store, gives you like 1,500 case scenarios. So do that. That'll give you some extra practice. If you got your textbooks, if you don't have a textbook, if you sold them back or whatever happened, you can get the step-by-step. That's pretty the standard. There's another one that's, I can't think of what it's called. It's a red book. It's something about, I don't know, I'll have to look it up and I'll post it in the comments. But make sure you spend time studying. So I hope this helps you. Don't be afraid to go back and start all over, because sometimes we miss it. So we had something was going on in our life. We weren't focused, we weren't disciplined. And then now we come back and we're ready. You just got to start all over and just start reading chapter 1 and just go all the way through. Read your ICD-10 guidelines. You can Google 2019. They're out. Of course, the textbooks are out. The books are out. The coding books are out for 2019. But if you can't buy them, you can Google the ICD-10 coding guidelines for 2019. You can read those. But spend time studying. Don't neglect this fact that you have got to study. You've got to have a good foundation, and that is anatomy and physiology and medical term. You can't shortcut the process. So I hope this helps you. I hope you go back and look at your scores, see where you are, create a plan to get better every single day, and just don't think because you pass the CPC exam that you're going to be a good coder. You got to look at your scores and see where you are, and just try to get better. If you fail the CPC exam and you need help, I'm going to be offering a masterclass, how to pass the CPC exam, the next time or the first time. It's going to be a masterclass December the 15th. Currently, it's $17. It's going to go up December the 15th. I think it's the day of the class. It's 8 to 9:30. It'll go up to $27, and then it'll continue to go up. But if you need help, you're interested in passing the CPC exam, attend this masterclass. It's how to pass the CPC exam the first time or the next time. You can go to bit.ly/get CPC 18, and I'll put it in the comments. That's bit.ly/get CPC 18, bit.ly/get CPC 18. So I hope you'll join us. I hope this information has been helpful for you. So happy coding.